This is a brownie. I fucking love brownies. And in spite of my love for brownies, I've been able to maintain a pretty good, lean, muscular physique for about the past 7 years. And I can only do that because I know how to balance my cheat meals with my regular meals. So today I'm gonna break that down for you. It's a very simple system I get myself and my clients to follow. That means we can often eat things like this without ending up like someone who eats things like that all the time. Fundamentally, it goes like this. We make a nutrition program that's 90% healthy, whole foods, high in protein, low in calories. It's relatively rigid though, so typically I'll eat the same thing more or less every day. If you've seen my meal plan video, my day of eating video, you'll know what that looks like. But it's as you would imagine. Typically things like chicken, rice, I have a lot of bagels, I have some eggs, protein powder, oats. Very nutritious whole food, skewed heavily towards protein. That is 90% of my diet. However, every week, and this is without fail, I will make sure I include 1 or 2 meals that are objectively delicious. So for me, every Saturday I'll make myself a big bowl of nachos, for example. I'll use chips, I'll use cheese, I'll use all sorts. Beans, I love my nachos, right? That's like one of my cheat meals I look forward to every week. I'll also each week probably have a takeaway. Maybe on like a Thursday night I have something like Nando's or go out to eat at a nice restaurant. And I do this for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a lot easier to stick to what's essentially quite a boring diet, boring kind of whole food, nutritious diet. It's a lot easier to stick to that if you've got a tasty meal to look forward to in like a day or so. So the way I break it down is I have at least two sort of tasty meals a week, and I spread them. So one's usually on a Wednesday, one's on a Saturday. So that way I'm never that far away from having something tasty. If I really feel like I'm craving chocolate or brownies, pizza, something like that, all I have to do is push it back until that day. That's the deal I've made for myself. 90% nutritious whole foods and 10% delicious food that I want. So there's a psychological element to it there. As long as you're never too far away from a tasty meal, it's much easier to push it back than to just cancel it. That's why I don't recommend people go for all or nothing diets. That's why things like a 90-day weight loss challenge, a 30-day weight loss challenge often don't work, because people try and go too hard for too long, and then when they break, they binge eat all the bad foods they've been resisting the entire time. We don't want to do that. The key to following a diet is making it just a lifestyle rather than a diet. So my diet, yes, it's relatively rigid, but I can technically eat whatever I want. If I want to have brownies one week, I'll just use up one of my cheat meals on brownies, and then in a couple more days I have another cheat meal. And because that cheat meal is not spread across the week, I'm not having snacks here and there, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, it's all relatively condensed into those 2 days, split quite evenly. It's very easy for me to treat myself and pull back. Another technique I use is I'll always have the cheat meal as a dinner. I'll tell you why. The human brain is very interesting. If we stick to a rigid routine and then we introduce some deviancy, some discrepancy from the routine, your mind tends to lean towards that discrepancy once you've already broken through the barrier once. What do I mean by that? If I was to have my cheat meal in the morning, my brain is going to be so much more inclined to recommend me food that's delicious and off my plan for the rest of the day. If I have it just for dinner, if I save up for my nachos for dinner, for example, or my pizza or my meal out, then I've only got a couple of hours of deviancy and time to fill my body with food that doesn't fit my meal plan. So if you can, push that meal back towards dinner. It will help you and stop you spilling over as much. Another reason I incorporate cheat meals like this is there's actually a benefit in terms of igniting your metabolism. If you start dieting too extremely, and I've done this before, you're trying to get super lean, you reduce your calories over and over and over and over again, your body does adapt to the lower calories. So it slows down the amount of calories you burn as you consume less and less calories. If you have what we call a refeed or a cheat meal with nutritious food, your calories are going to spike back up and sort of reignite the calorie burning power of your body. So when you're dieting and when my clients are trying to get very, very lean, as their calories fall, I will often introduce a cheat meal or a refeed meal, very high in carbs, high in protein, high in fat, all of them, just to spike that metabolism back up, sort of reignite the calorie burning. So there is some utility to having cheat meals. Another technique I use is to have cheat meals as opposed to cheat days. You've probably got this already based on what I've said, but if you have a cheat day and the entire day is eat whatever you want, you can really cause some damage diet-wise in a day. You can quite easily consume 5,000 to 6,000 calories over your typical calorie limit if you have an entire day of cookies and pizza and cheese and chips. If you just have a cheat meal, even the biggest, densest, most calorie dense meal is not really going to spill over your calories that much. Maybe by 1,000 or 2 if it's an enormous meal like a whole pizza or something. So if you limit it to just a meal, a cheat meal, once or twice a week, the damage you do is not going to be that significant. As opposed to a cheat day where you completely throw your diet out the window, that's going to be awful. You're going to be miles over your calories, you're not going to hit your protein, and it's going to be very hard to get back on track the next day. Not to mention, you also feel shit the next day. If you go from having nutritious whole foods to suddenly have a bigger cheat day, the next day you're going to wake up feeling groggy, your workout's going to suck, it's going to be pretty dark, so we don't want that. There you have it. There's my principles for managing cheat days and cheat meals. If you just take one thing from this video, it's to not deprive yourself of the foods you really crave. Just allocate them their own little time and be aware of how many calories are involved. That way you can have things like brownies, you can have things like pizza, the things that you really like that would keep you sticking to a diet without letting them spill over and just ruin the whole thing. If you've got some value from this video. I know it was pretty brief. I can really dive into this for like an hour if I wanted. So if you want some more videos like that, let me know and subscribe. That being said, I'll see you in the next one. Treat yourself every now and then. Sometimes you've earned it.